Okay, everybody, this is week 2, day 4, and we have now actually officially begun the transition out of weather and into navigation. For today's stuff, we're just going to start kind of easing into the whole navigation thing, going to introduce you to what it is, and we're going to start out with just the basics and stuff. Time, reference, and location, that's basically just where you are on the Earth, like as far as coordinates go. It's just kind of teaching you about the longitude, latitude scale, where, 0 degree, the prime meridian and the equator, if just in case anybody didn't already know where they're at, and how all the longitude, latitude scale is based off of those. Then we're going to jump into some definitions, just all about different navigation definitions, and just kind of start getting into an introduction to like the different charts and things like that we're going to start to use. So this is just an introduction. The reading that's been assigned for today is, it looks a lot more overwhelming than it really is. I'm going to bring it up and show it to you. I think it shows up as like 37 pages, but I have gone through all of this, and I've really kind of highlighted. So it starts out, it's really not like you're like reading kind of like as we've been seeing before, but you're just going to go through. It starts out just going through different definitions, different things that you're going to want to know. Now, don't feel like you need to like memorize every little thing that I've highlighted, but I've went through and I've highlighted the ones that are more important. You're going to want to keep this document handy so that there are going to be several ones that I did not highlight that you may need to refer back to. However, it's not going to be like something that's like on a test or anything like that. It's just something that's kind of more for your reference. There are the ones that I did highlight are going to be the ones that are more common that you're going to hear in dispatch, that you're going to need to become familiar with, and you'll end up using pretty much on a daily basis. So just start, you can start scrolling through this. You can kind of see here, there's, on some pages there is quite a bit that's highlighted, and others there is not. But you don't feel like you need to go read through every last little thing on this. Just try and read the different things that are highlighted. Like for instance here it's talking about the approach category of aircraft. Like I say, you don't necessarily need to memorize any of this. Just need to become familiar with it, and kind of have it handy to be able to refer back to. A lot of these in here are obvious things that you probably already knew. So this first part goes through definitions. You can kind of see here. I'm going to be scrolling through here, stuff that you're going to want to start becoming familiar with, and then it gets into actual like acronyms that we used a lot. And as far as the acronyms go, same thing. I've gone through and highlighted the ones that are going to be more common that you're going to need to know and become familiar with. Some of them you already will know and are just obvious ones. Kind of see here. Some are repeats, like AWOS right there. You've already learned about those. You should already know what it is. But you can kind of get an idea of the quantity in here that is and is not highlighted. And after you get done here with the acronyms, it jumps into the legend of like the en route charts. The en route charts are the first thing that we're going to start looking at, but I've highlighted the sections that I want you to read through. And as you get down into it, it's going to start showing you different symbols and things like that that you need to become, start to get acquainted with. You'll start seeing these a lot more as we look at other charts and things. So same thing, don't feel like you need to, look at these things and, memorize every last little thing. However, these are just to kind of start giving, an introduction to what the charts look like, the different symbols and things you're going to see on charts, for different nav aids, what airports look like on a chart, and different airspaces, frequencies. Yeah, you can kind of see what I mean here just kind of by scrolling through what the different routes look like. Jetways, Jet Airways, Victor Airways, things like that. But there is a lot of information in here, obviously. But like I said, this is just an introduction to, it's really, don't feel like necessarily like anything in here, is going to directly be, something that I'm going to come back and ask you a whole bunch of questions on. It's just, the objective of today is just to get yourself somewhat a little bit acquainted with what these charts look like, and just the definitions and the acronyms, and just like I said, we're going to start diving a lot more into this over the next few days. I think we spend like 4 or 5 days total on navigation. So it is something that kind of comes and goes pretty quick, but it's also something that once we get back into flight planning and things later, you'll still see these charts a lot more over and over and over. So you'll have, a chance to become more familiar later, and also to, the repetition of doing flight plans and flight planning later on. Also, you're going to become very familiar with the charts, what they look like, what you need to look for, and things like that as well. So the thing that I'm more concerned about with today's stuff is just becoming the definitions and the acronyms are going to be the ones that I would really want you to just to focus on more. I know there's a lot on both of those, but like I said, you don't have to necessarily have everything memorized on those. Just go through and start and looking at some of those, and if there's ones that you don't know, try and either write those down, or if you want to print this out and then write notes on it, or however is best for you. I want you to ultimately become familiar with the definitions and the acronyms, the chart symbols and legends and stuff like that. And I think we're going to see a lot of that later on. So yeah, other than that, that's like I said, that's pretty much all there is for today. There is also a PowerPoint presentation which is in here that also kind of gives an introduction to different charts, and it's going to be helpful as well. It also kind of looks at the glossary. Now, when we look at regarding charts, there are 2 different companies. Well, I shouldn't say companies. Well, one's a company. There's 2 different people that basically provide charts to airplanes and airlines and things like that. The government makes their own charts, and those are going to be referred to as like either the NOAA or the NACO charts. They just create all their own, and then Jeppesen. And I'm sure most people have heard of Jeppesen, but Jeppesen also creates charts. That's actually kind of how they originally started as a business, is they were creating a different type of navigational chart for airlines. And so Jeppesen is ultimately the one that every airline uses, and it's going to be the ones that we look at the most. So just know that there are the 2 differences between those. We're going to be looking mostly in this PowerPoint. Most of this is going to be, I believe, the NACO charts. However, that glossary and the reading stuff, that actually all comes straight out of the Jeppesen definitions, acronyms, and glossary legend. So, but yeah, go through the PowerPoint. It will help you kind of get an introduction, and then there's also a, I believe the video in here is about 21 minutes or so, but all of these things will help quite a bit getting yourself acquainted with navigation and the different symbols and definitions. So if anybody has any questions or issues, obviously please let me know. There's nothing directly specific that that you necessarily have to like pay a ton of attention to today, you know, like as far as quiz material and things like that. The only thing that I would say is in the definitions and the acronyms, those are going to be the ones that you're going to want to look at. And, you know, if you're looking at, you know, memorizing different things, that's where you would want to look and start kind of looking at more and getting acquainted with. But like I said, it's we're going to go over this a lot more, you know, when we start looking at more flight planning stuff more directly, and over these next 4 or 5 days in navigation as well. So I'm not going to necessarily start quizzing you on acronyms and definitions, but that's, you know, where you're going to want to start becoming more familiar with. The other stuff will kind of come automatically because you're going to be doing flight planning, and the familiarity with the charts and things like that will become kind of more of an automatic thing later on. It's just really the thing you'll want to focus more on now, like I said, acronyms and definitions to begin the navigation stuff. So if anybody has any issues or any additional questions outside of that, please let me know, and if not, then we will talk to you guys again tomorrow when I post stuff for day 5. So we'll talk to everybody later.